Today's use case will showcase CA Application Lifecycle Conductor as it automates and manages artifacts in a number of different CA and third-party tools that are part of a software development lifecycle for a change. Software changes can originate in a number of different ways. You might, for instance, have customers initiating their changes, maybe making new feature requests, maybe in an ideation system. You may have them logging problems in a service desk, or maybe you have project management, creating a backlog of features that they think the product needs in a PPM tool. Regardless of these changes and projects that are coming in to an IT organization, once they are determined that they need to be worked on, there's a number of different teams and processes that have to be followed. And each of those teams uses different tool sets to track their activities. And each of those tool sets produces different artifacts, all related to that change and all part of one software development lifecycle. What ALC aims to do is bring visibility across that entire software development lifecycle so that we can see all the different artifacts and all the different activities that are happening as part of that change. And not only bring visibility, but also automate the management of those artifacts so that the steps of the software development lifecycle flow from one tool and team to another in a cohesive manner. And at the same time, of course, track what's going on so that we can see it and report on it. So the best way to show this capability is with a use case. So what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to start by logging or initiating a change in a service desk. In this case, we're going to use ServiceNow, which you're seeing on the screen, which is a popular enterprise service desk. I'm going to initiate an incident, and that incident is going to be pulled by ALC into CA Agile Central, formerly known as Rally, as part of a backlog as a user story. We could create any type of artifact we want using ALC, but in our case, it's going to be a user story from that incident. And then, of course, once it's in our Rally, which is our Agile PPM or development tool, we're going to want to drive our development from there, including our builds and our deployments and even our tests. So we don't want to necessarily, as the development team, leave the tool of choice to go and affect this. And so that's where ALC is going to be a background actor, managing the workflows based on different events that are happening in different tools, and creating the artifacts and tracking the artifacts that come from other tools and teams as we do that. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and start by logging myself a new incident. So I'll click the new incident button, and we'll give the incident a short description. So let's say that the problem here is for existing customers unable to change price plan. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click the submit button, and that's created incident 119 over here. So we have a new incident that's been recorded in ServiceNow, and what's happening is ALC is looking for changes in ServiceNow, and if it finds any, then we know that we want new changes to be brought into CA Agile Central or formerly Rally as a user story in our backlog. So here's our backlog in Rally, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh it, and we'll see if ALC's brought the change in yet. And indeed it has. So here's our user story, and if I want, I can actually click in here and we can see that ALC has added a link. If we click that link, it'll actually bring us to the ALC web application, and we can see that a project has been created for that user story and incident in our traceability matrix. Now, you don't necessarily have to use the ALC web client. You can work entirely in whatever tool it is that you're using to track your part of the software development lifecycle, but the ALC does put in links where possible so that you can launch it and see exactly the bigger picture. It can also create artifacts in different containers where tools support it, like Rally, and we'll see that in a bit. But in our web client, in our interface, we can see we have our original project here. And if we expand it out, we can drill down and see that right now there's a Rally story and a ServiceNow, and that they're rolled up under this project. This ServiceNow incident, if I wanted to get the details from ALC, I can actually click into this and actually use our connector and see a live link of that artifact. Likewise, ALC has reporting capabilities, so I'm going to use our project dashboard so that we can observe some of the changes to this project as we go through the life cycle and see what's tracked in ALC. So right now we see there's our project. It's not in any development state or test state yet, and basically we've just got it brought into Rally. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is actually enable some development activities to happen and drive that from Rally. So in our particular change, we have our application has two components. It has a web front end, and that's run on distributed systems, but it also has a mainframe backend. And so we have two source control systems. In our case, it's going to be CA Harvest, which manages the source control for distributed, and also Endeavor, which manages the source control for the mainframe. And both those tools use something called a package that allows us to move our change through the lifecycle and relate our change back to why we're making the change. So in our case, we want to make the change to fix this particular incident that was logged in ServiceNow. I'm going to say from Rally, in the user story we've created, we're going to basically tag the two applications that we need to make our change in. Okay, so the CRM application and the mainframe. We're also going to say that when we're done doing our change, we want to run some automated tests. So I'm going to tag our mainframe test suite, and we'll see a little bit more about this in a second. But basically, I've created this tag, and now I can say that I'm ready to start development. So essentially, we've updated our status to development. We've tagged which applications and tests we want to run in Rally, and now ALC can react to that change and take appropriate workflow steps to create these packages that we're going to need to make our changes and also to set up our tests. So if I click actually back over to ALC and we go to our project progress dashboard and we refresh, we can see that we're now in development. In addition, we can see here's the two packages that got created. So these are these packages I talked about in our source control systems. And here's our test cases been set up in the not run status. So we'll see a little bit more about that in a sec. Likewise, on the left in the traceability matrix, if we drill down, we can see all these artifacts are there as well. And I can even double click them like I did with the ServiceNow incident, and even though this Endeavor package lives out on the mainframe, I can see the information about it right here in my web console. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend that I've been notified. So ALC workflows, of course, can send notifications. I'm going to pretend I'm a developer and I've been notified that my change is ready for me to work on. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go and do the distributed source control change. So we'll come in here. This is Eclipse. This is where our source code has been already checked out. And I'm just going to add a comment to the source file. We'll save that, and then I'm just going to tell our source control system that we're working on a particular package. So let's see where our package is. I believe for existing customers, we're unable to change the price plan. There it is. So that was generated by ALC so that we can do our change. We actually can't make a change in our source control system unless we have a package. So this helps ALC can assist with enterprises where separation of duty is a concern. Essentially, you can have the automated system enabling the work that the developers need to do to make the actual source code change. So I've made my actual change, and now I'm going to go and I'm going to commit my change to the repository. And if I flip back to ALC and we look at that particular change in the traceability matrix, we can see that we can actually not only see the generated artifacts, but the related ones. We can keep drilling down. So here's the version that we changed in the context of the SDLC. I can open this up. We can see we can actually open the attached file. We're not actually getting copies of these files in ALC. We're actually reading this live out of the source control system, but in the context of a traceability matrix. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is put on my mainframe developer hat and do something very similar. So here's our mainframe session. I'm going to go in, and we have an element in the catalog called Ball4. And actually, if you recall that test case, I'm not sure if you caught the title of it, but essentially that automated test case that we set up, what it does is it looks at this particular element and looks for the text passed inside the element. If it finds that, then it passes the test case, and if it doesn't, it fails it. So I'm going to set up my change by actually failing the test case, and we'll go in and we will package it. So here's the package that was generated by ALC. I'm basically going to set that change I just made up as a move, and we're going to move it from our development to our next state. This is what the developers would generally do on a day-to-day basis, and I'm going to cast the package indicating that I'm done coding it. Okay, so it's now sitting in approval. So in Endeavour, we have an approval to go from dev to test. So one of the interesting things here that we could have is that, for instance, the developers may want to work on the mainframe, but the approvers maybe don't. And so if they're in Rally, for instance, they can launch over to ALC, and from that project, we can see that ALC has integrations into Endeavour, Harvest, Release Automation, but in our Endeavour menu, we can see that we can approve the associated packages. So I'm going to actually log in as myself. And what ALC will do is it'll go to Endeavour and it'll say, these are the packages I know that are part of this project. Are they requiring my approval? And it'll list out all the packages. So I can see it's the package that we just packaged up here. I'm going to say I want to approve it. And right from ALC, I can do my approval. And of course, I could have launched this in context from Rally, so I can stay in that tool and do the work that I need to do without necessarily having to go over the green screen. Okay, so at this point, the development is done. We've got our development done. We've got our source code packaged and related to our user story. We've got some tests set to run. And basically, I can put on my project manager hat and say, let's send this to the automated test environment and actually do the tests. And of course, if there's manual testing, we could have that invoked by notifying the testers and so on. But basically, by changing this status over here, Rally is now saying that we're ready to move. And of course, ALC is reacting to that, invoking a number of different workflows. So the first workflow that we're going to have is we're going to run our distributed tests. And our distributed builds, we're going to do that with a continuous integration tool called OpenMake. And then if the build's successful, we're going to capture that and analyze it and then package everything up for deployment using a tool called Release Automation. And of course, on the mainframe side of the house, everything's built into Endeavour, so all we have to do is execute the package. So ALC is essentially doing all those steps as a result of this. And then, of course, once that's done, we wanted to run our automated test suite that we tagged. So let's go over to ALC. We'll go onto our project dashboard, and we will refresh it and see what's happened. Okay, so we can see that our project is indeed moved to test. And as a matter of fact, that means that we've executed our packages. And we still got a little bit more work here going. We'll refresh it again. There's our actual build. So our build has now been automatically run and captured by ALC. And if I want, I can actually open the build right from the report. I can see it was a successful build. I can see the attachment list over here. Here's our build log. I can go over here and I can actually open that attachment if I wanted to review the log, for instance. So all this is being captured from the build tool. So there's the actual build log. I can close the build over here. We can scroll down and we can see a few other things have happened. So for instance, our test case, as predicted, failed. So there's our failed test case. And because the test case failed, we actually automatically created a defect. Now, in our particular case, the defects are being actioned by two different teams. We have our test team who works with our defect logging tool, which in our case is Jira. We also have our agile development product owners that want to know about the defect and manage the defect as part of the backlog. So what ALC did with that defect is it actually logged the defect in the test tool. So we can look at it. losing my spot over here. Here's our test tool, and if we look at the issue list over here and refresh, there's our defect. But likewise, our project managers want to know about, or well, our product owners want to know about that defect. So if we go and close in here, we should see there it is in the backlog. And so it's been synchronized in both Jira and in Rally, and it's part of that overall life cycle. So a few other things I'm just going to show you, and then I'll wrap up because I think we're starting to get the idea of what ALC does. But basically, if we go into the original user story, I just wanted to show some of the visibility that gets created so that you don't necessarily have to go to ALC to see all this stuff, though you can. And maybe your tool doesn't have the ability to see these things in place, and where it does, it can create it. But if not, you can always use the ALC web client. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is that if you click over here, you can see here's the test case that we ran. And if we click over here, we have our change sets. So here's our actual changes that we made. So this is the change that we fixed inside of Harvest, which is our source distributed source. Here's our Endeavor Ball 4 change that we created and the package we used to execute it. And here's a link to our build. And actually, if we click this, it will bring us to the build result directly. So one of the neat things in ALC's traceability matrix is that it doesn't matter where you start. So over here, we kind of started from the project level, and we can see all these different artifacts, and we have our dashboard. But over here, we launched in context to the build result. But we can still drill down. We can see here's the actual project that was built. Here's the release automation job that ran. There's the individual steps. I can see here's the release that ran and its overall status. I can see from the project, here's the test set that was ran, and here's the defect that was detected. From here, I can see here's our ServiceNow incident that was our origination. Here's the source code that was changed, and so on. So I think you get the idea. You have that full traceability across all these different applications in one spot with ALC. With ALC being able to go back to other tools and provide the same information in links in context, tools such as Rally. So that's pretty much it for our use case. Hopefully you've gotten a good idea of how ALC can assist in bringing a cohesive view of your software development lifecycle. If there's any questions or anything like that, you can reach out to us at CA. I'm the product owner for ALC. My name's Vaughn Marshall, and you can reach me at vaughn.marshall@ca.com. So once again, thanks for your time and attention.